What's poppin', gang? Scott Argenbright. Today we're going over Texas rigs. When to peg, when not to peg. It's gonna be good. Let's go. The biggest question that we get about the Texas rig is whether to peg your weight or not peg that weight. So is it gonna be free swinging on your line, or are you gonna use that bobber stopper to peg that weight? Well, the difference is if you're out here, you roll up to the bank and you've got scattered cover where it's not super thick cover and you can bring it through there without that bait, pegged. That's obviously gonna be the route that you're gonna wanna go. So the reason for that is if that bait is free swinging on your line, down there on the bottom, your bait's gonna have more action. So now if you've got heavy cover, super heavy cover, you don't wanna have that bait free swinging because it's gonna get hung up more. You're gonna have more grass on your hook. It's just gonna be a pain. So heavier cover, you're gonna wanna make sure that you peg that weight, more sparse, sporadic. Open cover, that's where you don't need to peg the weight. Very simple. Open cover, no peg. Heavy cover, you're always gonna wanna peg it. And there he is. I was able to skip that worm right up under that dock because I had that Texas rig pegged, little 1/8 ounce tungsten on there. Skipped it up under there. And that worm, that was the ticket. Texas rig on dock, skipping. You got it pegged. Nice little fish there, a little average fish, but man, he really smoked that little red colored worm. There it is. Another one. Not a big fish, but again, I've got that weight unpegged and I've got little short stick ups here that I'm just throwing that Texas rig worm right at every little stick up and unpegged catching. I'm getting a lot of bites here. Nice little chunk there. That fish came up and he swerved on the frog. So another really good bait in the spring, little crawl right there, is a Texas rig. So maybe you have a fish swing and miss on, they swipe at your jerk bait, they're there. Drop that Texas rig in there and catch them. Now another cool part about the Texas rig is it's super versatile. So I've got so many different baits that I can Texas rig. So you roll up to the bank here, you're at the pond. Awesome bait to just have tied on all the time. You've got whatever size weight on there, pegged or not pegged. You got a lot of flexibility. So right here I got a ribbon tail worm that I've got Texas rigged. I've caught a few fish on that one. It looks a little bit mangled, so we'll take that one off there. Or you can use your standard Cinco style worm, and that's a really good, really effective bait to Texas rig. So how I'm going to Texas rig any of those baits is you're going to take that plastic and you're going to go just up past the barb, and then literally you're going to come through right there, slide that up the shank of the hook, give it a twist, and you're good to go. Now, how you're gonna wanna hook this through there to be weedless, typically if you're in heavy cover, you want it completely weedless. Use the end of the hook as your gauge, and that's where you go into the bait, and then slide that right up like that, and you've got the perfect Texas rig. Now, if the fish they're not biting really good, or they're not super aggressive, and your hookup ratio isn't that great, you can Texpose that bait where you come through it, and then you're just barely gonna skin hook the end of that barb. That way it's easier when the fish bites down on that hook, it's gonna pop free and you're gonna hook that fish a little bit easier. But if you're in heavy cover, you're gonna want to rig that weedless, just like that. Perfect. Again, there are a lot of baits that you can Texas rig. This is a little craw, nice little Texas rig bait. Was in a recent Lucky Tackle box, so again, you're gonna rig that the same way. Coming into the top of that craw, just past the barb, come through that plastic, a little bit crooked there. Make sure that you have it straight, right in the middle of that bait, and then just slide it up that hook shank, give it a twist, and then nice little notch there in that bait for kind of a good little gauge there. And you're gonna go into that plastic. A lot of baits have that. They have a little channel where you can hook that Texas rig, and then you're perfect. You're all set. Craws, creature baits, Cincos, ribbon tail worms, a lot of different baits that you can Texas rig. Definitely something that you should be comfortable with. Heavy cover, we're having it pegged. Non-heavy cover, you got sparse cover, unpegged. Again, if you've got that bait weightless, make sure that you set the hook hard. Typically you're gonna want a good solid medium heavy action rod. That's gonna give you the backbone that you need to set that hook hard and get that fish, back to the boat or back to the bank as we're fishing here. Catch us on the next one. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow, all that jazz, and we'll see you on the next one.